Hello, and thanks for checking out this quick overview of Reconceptualism and Currere. This is a down and dirty slide presentation with no bells and whistles because the goal here is really just to give an overview so you have a grounding in the influences that have caused me to structure the interview process as I have, why I will be following the line of questions that I do throughout the interviews, why I ask for the artifacts that I do, and to give you an opportunity to consider in broad strokes, your own Currere ahead of our interviews as it relates to the role information and communication technologies have played throughout the curriculum of your personal and professional lives. And finally, I'm seeing this as foregrounding Currere so that it's a time-saving process, so that we don't have to take up valuable time during the interviews to explain and position these theoretical and methodological frames. Plus, you'll be able to return to this and review it if you have any questions as they arrive throughout our research time together. All right, so moving forward. Reconceptualism. So the process called Currere, which will be developed later in this presentation, is a methodological expression of reconceptualism, which forms part of the theoretical frame of my dissertation. Reconceptualists are postmodernists who study the temporal, transcendent, conscious, and political nature of educational experience. They tend to be less concerned with behavioral changes and decision-making processes in the classroom, and look to the present as it is and how it is informed by both the future and the past. So reconceptualism draws from other theories to develop conceptual tools for understanding human educational experiences, and it seeks to blend the social scientific, the humanities, the arts, and to recenter educational experience on the human element, right? The human experience of teaching and learning, both the individual's experiences and the individual's experience in relation to one's environment and social relations. Reconceptualism is a body of critical curriculum theorizing. In developing and positioning the process of Currere, Bill Pinar starts with the many meanings that get ascribed to the term curriculum, such as those that we see here, and we've probably all used them interchangeably over the years ourselves. So reconceptualists, in their theorizing, introduce and include other traditions as a way of critiquing curriculum as it exists now, including fields as existentialism, phenomenology, ontology. So the meat of this overview concerns the reconceptualist process of Currere, and as I mentioned earlier, it plays a significant part of my research process and the data I'll collect both through the interviews and the artifacts I would like participants to create. Currere is the Latin root of our word curriculum and means to run. Pinar turns to these etymological roots to imagine curriculum as both a knowledge-producing discipline as well as a tool to define and produce the environment of the learning space. As Pinar notes, Currere involves the investigation of the nature of the individual experience of the public realm. That is the experience of artifacts, actors, operations of the educational journey, or as Pinar describes it, the educational pilgrimage. Through Currere, the study of curriculum or educational experience is seen as historically rooted in existentialism, phenomenology, and psychoanalysis, and that insofar as curricula form the blueprints or the signs of education, they have to be rooted in experience. Currere concerns itself with three aspects of existence: temporality, language, and meaning. And these three aspects point to the experience of the journey or the pilgrimage to the nature of one's existence within the context of education. So Currere asks us to consider then the relations between the self and others, and here other also includes the artifacts that populate learning and knowing, and how these relations constitute the acquisition of knowledge and the processes of knowing. So the method of Currere, then, drawing on these three aspects, is the means through which one narrates their curricular autobiography. And in fact, in reconceptualist circles, Currere and curricular autobiography are sometimes used interchangeably. Currere, then, is a method of temporal reflection through which a practitioner considers an aspect of their curricular pilgrimage in 4 distinct stages to derive meaning from their experiences and understand one's education and evolution. These steps are the regressive, the progressive, the analytic, and the synthetic. This is the process by which one can understand how one's studies have contributed to the understanding of one's biography. In the regressive step, one turns to the past to capture it as it was, and to consider how it hovers in the present. The goal is to bracket out elements that are useful to this project, such as facets of school life, artifacts of learning, formal and informal, structured and unstructured learning that one's experienced over the course of a lifetime. We capture our present responses to our observations of the past, but at this point we don't interpret our observations yet. In whatever emotional and intellectual responses surface, we note our awareness of them, and in so doing see how the past makes itself known even in the present. In the progressive step, we look towards the future and what is not yet come. So we're thinking of, what's going to happen tomorrow, in the days, weeks, months, even years ahead. Here we free associate, recording what surfaces, where our intellectual interests are going, our evolving relations between these interests and one's life as an individual, the relations between our interests in the past and in the future, and then the historical conditions that surround them. We should continue to be aware of the emotional and intellectual content of these associations and consider where they may be going. And again, this is an act of free association, and that free association is important. And at the same time, to resist intellectualizing or critiquing anything that comes up at this point. During the analytical step, the practitioner takes both the past and the future and just sets them aside for a moment and make room to describe their biographical present, which is exclusive of the past and the future, but inclusive of the responses to them. So for instance, in the analytical step, we're considering, where do you physically do your work, and with whom do you work and for whom? What are your intellectual interests? What are the emotional resonances that come with them? To what ideas, fields of study are you drawn? Which ideas and fields might repel you? And here we are breaking the whole into parts, detaching, bracketing, so we can see what was, what is, and what can be. So the goal during the analytical step is to basically see potential. And so as the 3 steps, the regressive, progressive, analytic, or an examination of the past, then the future, then the present, as these are held together and juxtaposed, how do they interrelate? What complexities are revealed? How, as Pinar writes, how is the future present in the past in the future, and the present in both? Finally, in the synthetic step, we ask, what is the contribution of my scholarly and professional work to my present? Do they encourage movement? Do they point to deeper knowledge and understanding? And here the practitioner brings it all together, the intellect, the emotions, the behavior, the meaning, everything that we were saying set aside for a moment, we now bring together and see how it all interacts with each other when we bring it all together, and what do we see. So one of the points of conducting one's Currere and writing one's curricular autobiography is to reduce the role distance, and thus the emotional distance, between the human beings engaged in the educational pilgrimage. In other words, the teacher and the student. So the practitioner does this by going inward and momentarily taking the learner's role. The practitioner's experience is the data. It's this four-step process of Currere, then, which will provide the format for and inform the questions of our semi-structured interviews. So these are a series of questions Pinar throws out just to kind of prime the pump, if you will, that, these are areas of personal inquiry that Currere opens up to us and for us, that perhaps many of us haven't considered since our earliest educational philosophy and methodology classes and the exercises that professors may have had us do in undergrad, and the personal statements that we might be asked to write. So the process of Currere allows us to engage in that deep reflection, or more to the point, acts of reflexivity, right? That are often sacrificed to time and expediency once we actually hit the classroom. So I would also argue that not only do educators actually crave opportunities for such deep consideration and reflection, such moments are vital to understanding one's personal mission, the meaningful execution of one's practice, and fulfillment that either is or is not coming in practice. So indeed, what happens when we sit with these questions for a time, allowing them to seep into our consciousness, our thoughts about our practice? What answers surface? What other questions arise? What do we understand about our own coursings through the educational profession, both as a learner and as a teacher? What confirmations do we experience? What surprises actually enliven us? Taking on these questions and developing one's own Currere as a curricular autobiography revives educational experiences as encounters, as living experiences. It rescues curriculum from instrumentalization, instruction from mere script reading, and it pushes learning beyond paltry compliance. It draws both teaching and learning from something generalized, universalized, templated, and external to oneself to living encounters, events, adventures that become specific to individual experience and crucial elements of our interiority that persist throughout time. They become essential parts of our language and the meaning that we make of our life worlds. And in turn, living those experiences, we can excavate them and they can become the narrative arc of our curricular autobiography. So this is the end of the overview. I wanted to keep it short and sweet. I hope you're intrigued and excited to explore and conduct your own Currere with a specific focus on the role of technology that it's played and will play and currently plays in your own curricular autobiography. I've posted some links below if you have more questions and you're a little curious about Reconceptualism and Currere and wish to know more. There's also a link to a copy of the slide deck. If you have any questions or wish to have a private conversation about any of this with me, feel free to call me, send me an email, and thanks for your time here, and take care.